Today, all eyes are on Israel. The most pressing question is how Israel will respond to the Iranian attack on October 1st. Israel's defense minister has said that it will be lethal, precise, and above all, surprising. To shed more light on this, we are joined by the chief spokesperson of Israel's foreign minister. Oren, I want to ask you how, as your defense minister has already said that it will be surprising. But can we say that it can happen today, tomorrow, or day after?
Thank you, Manish, for having me in this program. And you said right, there will be a response regarding the Iranian attack. But perhaps we need to take a moment and to think, how did we get to this point? So many pictures coming, so many news pouring in, and sometimes people are losing track of the big picture, of the big story. Let me remind us all, remind the viewers, we didn't want this war. This war was forced upon us. On October 7, exactly a year ago, Hamas launched the most barbaric, cruel attack that humanity has seen for decades, with nearly 1,200 people being slaughtered. Women were raped, families were burned alive. So many atrocities, perhaps the worst in decades, and so many stories still coming out. You know, like I said, just this week we are commemorating a year of this massacre, the biggest massacre of Jews since World War II, since the Holocaust. And I came across one video that really stuck with me. It's a video of a family, of the family of Tassa family. In this video, you can see two brothers, one in the age of 12, the other at the age of 9. They are crying, they are in tears. The older brother tells his young brother, "Daddy is dead. They've just murdered Daddy. It is no joke, it is real. They murdered Daddy." Terrorists in front of those two children murdered their father. The younger child can't talk because he lost his eye. This is happening, all this scene, all this video, which is video that was captured from the scene, is happening in the kitchen table. Manish, can you imagine yourself? Can the viewers imagine themselves waking up on a Saturday morning and in their kitchen there are terrorists? This is the reason why we're fighting this war, to make sure that there is no October 7, and to make sure that our hostages, 101 hostages, are returned and coming back home. And you asked the right question about Iran. It's, of course, started with this most terrible attack of Hamas. But just the day after, Hezbollah attacked us with thousands of rockets, dozens of Israelis being murdered, including 12 children while they were playing football. And it's not only Hezbollah. It goes also to the Shia militias in Iraq and Syria. And of course in Judea and Samaria, you've got terrorist cell. It goes all the way to Yemen. The Houthis, almost 2,000 kilometers away from Israel, are firing rockets and missiles against Israelis. And the one octopus that is putting in this terror axis all together and last week directly attacking us is Iran. Connecting the dots between Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hamas is Iran. that launch attacks through their proxies, but also directly on us. More than 180 missiles were shot at Israel. I'll tell you one story, personal. Last week, my two daughters were rushed into shelter. One in the age of 9, one in the age of 11, and my younger is at the age of 8, and my older is at the age of 11, and they were rushed into shelter. And Ophir, the younger one, 8-year-old, she was petrified. We couldn't calm her down. You know, whenever my older girl hears something that sounds like a siren, she goes panicked. She's in really extreme stress. Why is this the case? Why our children, like the children in India, should be alarmed when they hear something that sounds like a siren? And yes, no country should accept this situation, neither Israel, and there will be a response.
A few hours ago, Israeli PM spoke with President Biden and Vice President Harris. As the talks were described that it was direct and productive, does it mean that Israel has received a green signal to attack Iran?
So obviously I won't relate into conversation that we're having with our close and strategic friends in the US. But I can tell you that the alliance and the friendship between Israel and the US is unbreakable. It is very close. If you've seen, I've just mentioned October 7 commemoration ceremonies. If you've seen the message coming from President Biden a year after October 7, it was very clear, very strong message. The National Security Advisor, Jack Sullivan, came to our embassy in Washington, D.C., and he was deeply moved while speaking on those attacks. The friendship between Israel and the U.S. is not only strategic. It's not only that we see things very in a same fashion, and there's no daylight between us. The values, the friendship between the people is very close. It's unbreakable.
Please tell me how a war with Iran is different from Israel's conflict with Hamas or Hezbollah?
Listen, at the end, that's a very good question, because at the end of the day, like I said, what we're witnessing is an octopus. Its head is in Tehran, but it sends its arms all over. And actually...
And you are cutting one by one.
Exactly. And we're fighting one by one, but the head is in Tehran. And what we're witnessing is a strategy. It's a well-designed, or well-orchestrated strategy of the Iranian regime to encircle Israel with a ring of fire. Like I said, all the way from the north, Hezbollah, through the Shia militias in the east, Syria and Iraq, Judea and Samaria terror cells, of course Hamas in Gaza, Houthis, and the source of this instability in Tehran. So yes, we need to go after the source of the problem, and we need to address the challenge. And I'll say again, we did not want this war, but if it's forced upon us, we will win it. And Manish, you know why we will win this war? Because a very simple answer. A very simple reason. We will win this war because we don't have another option. If we won't win this war, we will die. if we won't win this war, my two daughters have nowhere to go. So being forced to the wall, we know that we will win this, and we're winning it.
You are a chief spokesperson of Israel's foreign ministry. There are reports that Russia is assisting Iran, and Iran may have received S-400 air defense system, which is one of the most advanced air defense system. If it is true, then what is Israel's response?
Without relating to specific reports, because of specific and natural reasons, I can tell you that whatever equipment, whatever technology Iran has, Israel has the ability to address it. It has been shown in the past, and it can be shown in the future. And our government officials, our ministers, the foreign minister Israel Katz said it, our chief of staff of the armed forces said it. We can reach any point and any person in the Middle East. So whatever needs to be done will be done in order to do one thing, and one thing only: to keep our families safe. What we're asking, Manish, is something I think every person in. Can you imagine people in Rishikesh, in Varanasi, needing to rush into shelter because they have more than 180 ballistic missiles? What would India would do? India, I would assume, provide security to its citizen. This is exactly what we're trying to do. Nothing more, nothing less.
Since you mentioned that what India will do, so many countries, including India, has called for peace and diplomacy. And since you are a diplomat also, so my question is that whether diplomacy is any option, or the war has already begun.
You're right. I'm a diplomat. And I can tell you, as a diplomat, I myself took part in negotiation, in meetings, in which we said, when it comes to the Hezbollah threat, we want to solve it diplomatically. You need to address this issue. You need to sort it diplomatically. We said it, Manish, not only 1 week, not 1 month. We said it more than 11 months. Did you know what happened? Do you know what happened? Nothing. So again, although we didn't want the military option, we were forced to provide ourselves with security because no one else were able to do so. So yes, at the end of the day, I have a very clear message to you, to whoever watches this show. We want peace. I want to raise my two daughters in a different reality. In a reality of peace where they can visit their neighbors all around the Middle East. But right now, we are being forced to fight this war in order to provide them this security because no other option was available. No other option.
You must have seen a couple of US media reports about that Israel is not sharing enough intelligence to US government. What is your response? I can understand that it's an operational matter, intelligence, sharing intelligence and all these things. But US is your closest ally. So is it true that Israel is not sharing enough intelligence information, or there is a strategic purpose behind it?
Like I said before, the alliance, the relationship, the friendship between Israel and the US is second to none. There is no daylight between Israel and the US. It's really, the intimacy between the two countries is hard to imagine. Believe me, I spent 3 years being part of our embassy in Washington, D.C. And I think we can't wish for a better partner, a better friend, and same goes to the U.S. We are the U.S. closest ally in the Middle East. And same goes to all parts of the relationship, including the intelligence, including the security.
50 years ago, we saw the Yom Kippur. So can we say that again history is repeating itself, or this time the situation, scenario is completely different?
It's a good question, because you're right. In Yom Kippur, 50 years ago, there was a huge surprise. Israel was taken by surprise. But this time, it was even worse. Because those weren't only soldiers fighting. Like I said in the beginning, those were families that were burned alive. Parents were shot in front of their children. Children were shot in front of their parents. The rapes, the sexual attacks, the abuses are really hard to fathom. The worst crimes committed in decades were committed by Hamas terrorists. So in many regards, this massacre of October 7th is much worse. Is much worse because it was aimed to communities, to families, to villages, and the cruelty that was being shown was the worst.
I'm coming back to the Iran question. Iran has warned to the various Middle Eastern countries that not to share airspace with Israel when Israel will attack on Israel. Otherwise, there will be consequences. Although when Iran was attacking on Israel on October 1st, Iran had used many airspaces. So, what is your response? How do you see the Iranian threatening or Iranian warning?
You asked the right question, and you ended it with saying, how do I see the Iranian warning and threatening? I don't know if many people know this. Iran is the only country within the UN who is publicly calling for the annihilation of another country. They are openly, publicly calling for our destruction. And what I have to say in this regard, and answering your question, we need to listen to their chanting. We need to listen when they shout death to Israel, death to America. They mean it. They publicly, officially call for the destruction of another country. And this regime, it's not only a menace and a threat to Israel. It runs havoc in the entire Middle East. Look what they did to Lebanon with their radical terrorist ideology. They kidnapped Lebanon through this vessel of Hezbollah, doing the same with the Houthis, projecting war, violence, and terror throughout the Middle East, but not only in the Middle East. Iranian drones are actually killing Ukrainians. Iranians' weapons are being used to kill Ukrainians. And Iranian plots and plans to spread terror are now also aiming at Europe. So this is a country that spreads terror all over the world. And the biggest threat is that this country, which is the biggest producer of terror worldwide, will be able to acquire the most deadly weapon known to man, nuclear weapon. Just imagine, just think of a reality in which we are in this environment, unstable environment, and Iran has its finger on the nuclear bomb, on the nuclear weapon. Will you want to be part of this planet? We cannot allow this. This can never happen. So I think now is the time, more than ever, to put more pressure on Iran to do two things. First, to stop Iran from spreading terror all over through its octopus arms. And second, to make sure that Iran never, ever has a nuclear weapon.
Since you mentioned the nuclear weapon thing, you must have seen there are a couple of media reports that Israel will attack Iranian side, Israel will not attack Iranian nuclear site. So again, I'm coming back to my first question. What will be Israel's response and when?
So naturally, as you can assume, I won't go into the details of any military plan, timing, and the specific nature of it. But I will say, and we said it time and again, no matter what, no matter how, Iran should never have a nuclear weapon. I'll repeat it. No matter what, no matter how, Iran should never have a nuclear weapon. Because if Iran has this most lethal weapon known to man, we are all hostages. We are all prisoners of this radical regime. And this can never happen.
Thank you so much for sharing all the details. And so you have heard what Israel is saying about their response against the Iranian attack, and the whole world is actually waiting and watching. With camera person Amit, this is Manish Jha for TV9 from Israel.